When you first discovered the infidelity, something happened inside your mind. A process was set off that for most people still isn't complete for months and maybe even years later. It was a single moment, but the effect continues. It's not just in the past, it's still happening. It's like that moment came to live with you. It took up permanent resonance in your mind. It lives in your body, it lives in your breath, and the spaces between your thoughts. And you replay that moment of discovery, not because it's something that you actively enjoy thinking about. Your mind just keeps bringing it back up as if to say we're not done with this yet. But what are you supposed to do with it? What in the world is it bringing it up for? You're thinking about the words they said, the way the light fell, the sound of your own heartbeat, the exact punctuation, the exact moment when the world that you believed in cracked. I mean, if you've been through that, you can probably remember what I'm talking about even now. Just hearing it, just having it be called to mind, is sending you back into that loop in some small way. Hopefully this isn't too triggering to watch, but you can sense that that loop is still there in your brain. And it can often come when you least expect it. A tone of voice, a smell, a message notification, and suddenly you're not here anymore. You're back in that room, hearing those words, feeling that floor beneath your feet give way. It's the same shock, the same disbelief, the same wave of rage or numbness or grief, and it's like it's hitting fresh, as if this was the first time you were feeling it again. And you probably think you're going crazy. You're probably saying, why can't I let this go? Why does it feel like it just happened? And you might feel ashamed that weeks or months or years have gone by and you're still trapped in that single moment, like a needle stuck in the groove of a record, playing that same scratch over and over and over. Let's understand what that really is. Your brain is not just a computer. It is not perfectly rational. It's more of a storyteller in many ways. It takes experiences that you've lived and weaves it into a narrative so that it can navigate the world. But when something happens too fast, too suddenly, too brutally, when your world is betrayed in one moment, that story doesn't get fully woven. It's like it gets lodged. That part of your brain that organizes the memory, the hippocampus, genuinely gets flooded with stress hormones. And the emotional center, the amygdala, keeps flagging it as danger, danger, unresolved. So your mind pulls it up again and again and again, not because you're just obsessed about what happened, but because your brain still believes that there is something that needs to be made sense of and filed away. But it doesn't know how yet. I know that you're not holding on to it because you want to suffer. You desperately want to let go of this loop. And it's not like you haven't tried. I'm sure that you've put a lot of effort and energy. You've tried different techniques. And you're probably searching. Maybe that's why you're watching this video. Is he going to give me the golden technique that can make it so that I stop looping? So one way to think of this is that your mind is working and it's working hard. But it's like it's trying to digest something that's too big to swallow. It's like you took a big bite of steak that was really rare and it's just chewy and you're just chewing it over and over and over again. And you don't know if you can really get it like broken up enough to be able to swallow it. One somewhat useful thing to remember is that if your brain is bringing it back up, it's because it knows that there is something that needs to be let go of and processed and healed, and it believes in you. The only reason that it's bringing it up is because it believes in you and it knows how much better your life will be and how much more sense of the world it can make once you do process this. So your mind isn't broken, it's just stuck. And there are ways to help it advance. The first step is what I was just talking about, which is having some compassion and kindness on your brain, viewing it almost as this separate thing from you, and being gentle with its intention. It has a positive intention in trying to bring this up. So when it happens, you can just say, okay, that is the loop. That is my mind trying to process this. Just being a little bit kinder to yourself creates some space between you and the memory. And you can try simple things for grounding yourself as well. As the memories start to flood your mind, you can let the memory play, but also feel your feet on the floor, or notice the temperature of the air, touch something physical and real. And as you do that, you can say, that was then, this is now. I survived that moment. I am here now. You don't have to push the memory away, but you can reinforce to the hippocampus that there's a distinction between the past and the present. So how can you think of this loop? You can think of it as a question that you still need to find the answer to. You can find it as something you're resisting that you still need to accept. You can think of it as pain from a younger you or a different version of you that you need to comfort. You can think of it as a stage of your life that you need to build closure around. And it's similar in a lot of ways to suddenly losing a loved one. There's a type of grief that kind of naturally builds up over time, where you know the person is dying. You know you don't have that much time. And so over the period of months or sometimes even years, you're able to kind of process bit by bit the losing of that person. When someone very suddenly dies, it's a different type of grieving. And life is trying to race forward. You need to slow things down to make space for the grieving. And you need to get genuinely curious. What is it that your brain is needing to get closure on? Because it's not going to be the same for every person. I wish that I could just tell you, think through these 5 questions and that will guarantee that you can get closure here. It's not going to be that easy. It's going to be different for each person. For some clients that I've worked with, the core problem was something that they needed to accept. For others, it was just the fact that they never really built a new life beyond it. And the moment that they started to actually picture what they wanted for themselves and for their life was when it started to lose some of its grip. But that's what makes it so hard. You are in this loop, you are in the dark, and there's no set process for how to process. There's no handbook. And yet, here you are, still standing. If you're listening to this or watching this, there's a part of you that still believes, that still has hope, and that is still seeking for answers. This loop will not run forever. The memory will change. It will lose a lot of its sharpness. It will stop pulling you out of the present. And not because you forget, but because your brain is able to finally finish what it started. When you give it the time to do so, and when it's integrated into the larger story of your life. It will at some point become a chapter, not the whole book. If what you've been doing isn't working, please book a call with me. I'm happy to brainstorm with you what might be going on, and I can explain how I typically help my clients with this. On my main profile, there's a link to my website to set up a time to talk. But whether it's with me, with someone else, or just figuring it out, kind of your own journey, please believe that things will get better. And in the meantime, be gentle with yourself. When the replays come, don't fight it or feel like you failed because that's happening. But also don't let it convince you that you're still in danger. Unless you still are. If you're still with that person and they haven't changed their behavior to you at all, then that might be the reason why it's still coming up so much. Not every time, but I've definitely seen that as well. But at some point, that loop will widen and you'll begin to have that space in your brain again to ask so much more beautiful questions about your life and to explore so many different avenues of who you are and what you want, hopes and goals and dreams, and to be sad about other things. Like, wouldn't that be nice to not have all your sadness and all your anger be just directed to one person? There are far sadder things to be sad about outside of yourself. There are far more horrible things objectively outside of yourself to be angry about. And your emotions want to go to those places. Your healing is the priority, though. I'm not saying that to guilt you to say, why aren't you sad about these other things? I'm offering it as hope, as odd as it sounds, that one day you will be able to have your heart expand to feel the positives and negatives across the entire spectrum of life instead of it being centered on this one thing.